Okay, another kind of self-indulgent video today. In fact, I really thought long and hard about whether I should make it, but in the end I decided I might as well. Obviously, you wouldn't be watching it. But does anybody really want to hear about the experiences of a YouTuber whose videos very rarely hit a 4-digit view count and often don't even manage to hit 3 figures? Well, maybe, maybe not. But the main point I want to make is that everybody with even the slightest interest in being a creator should make videos, and they should make them about whatever the hell they want without worrying too much about whether anybody will watch them. So it would be kind of hypocritical if I started worrying about viewer interest at this stage. Also, you don't often hear the perspectives of teeny tiny YouTubers. Of course, that's mostly because you just don't hear much from teeny tiny YouTubers full stop, or they wouldn't be teeny tiny. So maybe my perspective has some value, or not. But hey, here we go. First, a not so brief history of my channel. I actually uploaded a few videos around 15 years ago, mainly obscure tracks I couldn't find anywhere else on the internet by Fernando Miata, a Brazilian guitarist I liked. I also uploaded a few videos of my World of Warcraft guild taking down various bosses, accompanied by classical piano music, which was not a popular choice. But then, a little over 4 years ago, I decided to try making videos about games. And here's my first not so pro tip. If you're going to take being a YouTuber at all seriously, create a new, fresh channel to do it on. There are a couple of reasons for this. First, if, like me, you've uploaded a bunch of random videos over the course of a decade and a half that got a few dozen views and more dislikes than likes, you might end up wondering just how much those old videos and dislikes are dragging you down in the eyes of the all-powerful algorithm. And again, if you're anything like me, you might develop an unhealthy paranoia about the algorithm and how it hangs over everything like a dark, malevolent cloud, watching, waiting, punishing, but occasionally rewarding as well. A fickle god, ever demanding obedience but impossible to please. But, well, that may just be me. The other reason to start a fresh channel is that, well, again, this may be specific to me, but I watch a lot of YouTube videos and I often comment on them, and sometimes the opinions I express are, shall we say, rather strong. And then anybody I may irritate has the option of clicking on my channel, disliking all my videos, and leaving nasty comments in retaliation. It hasn't happened often, but it is a consideration. So don't be like me, keep your YouTube viewing and commenting separate from your YouTube uploading. Anyway, the first video I made was about Echo, the Tides of Time on the Mega Drive, or Genesis, whatever your regional preference may be. I was inspired by a bunch of different YouTubers, primarily Kim Justice, who covered a lot of Mega Drive stuff too, and Noah Caldwell Gervais, who proved to me that you don't need to use flashy editing techniques or fancy clickbait stunts to come up with truly interesting game-related videos, so long as the writing was good. Now, I never really aspired to be as good a writer as those I admired the most. I know my limitations, and I wasn't motivated by the desire to be like anyone else. And although it seems like the most admirable motivation for something like this is to simply share your passion with others, that wasn't my main motivation either, although it was a part of it for sure. But mostly what I wanted was an excuse to go back to the games I loved from decades past and play them again in a deep and analytical way to truly appreciate them and come at them from a new perspective, with the advantages of the wisdom that comes with greater age. Well, it's supposed to come with greater age. Personally, I'm still waiting. But I greatly enjoyed the process of making my first proper video. The Tides of Time remains my favourite Mega Drive game. I really thought it held up great in the decade since its release, and I loved playing through the game again. I also loved thinking and writing about it, analysing the bits I particularly liked and what made the game such an overall fantastic experience. Making the actual video, the recording and the editing, that was a learning experience, but since I was going for a very straightforward editing style, it wasn't too much of a challenge. I did figure out later that the particular microphone I was using was pretty sensitive to the angle you were speaking into it, and that I really should have been using a stand rather than just holding it to cut down on background noise. But on the whole, it was a fun and satisfying thing to do, and I uploaded it to YouTube with zero expectations. Zero expectations, yes, but not zero hopes. It's not cool to admit it, but yeah, I was hoping people would watch it. I hoped a lot of people would watch it. I hoped it would somehow go viral, earn me millions of subscribers practically overnight, and make me one of the most popular and successful YouTubers on the planet. I knew the odds of this happening were infinitesimally small, but if you're going to dream, you might as well dream big. And of course it didn't happen, but I did get a trickle of views, maybe a couple of dozen in the first week or so, which isn't much obviously, but I figured it was something to build on. So I made some more videos, first on other Mega Drive games I loved, like Gunstar Heroes, or had wanted to play for decades, like Dynamite Headdy. After a little while I branched out to other games, like the largely forgotten Sonic the Hedgehog 4, and Ori and the Blind Forest, a relatively modern game which I'd just played for the first time and loved. I also made a couple of videos on Sunlust, the excellent custom map pack for old school Doom. The first of these videos remains my channel's biggest success, and perhaps quantifying what counts as my biggest success will give the clearest possible idea of just how inconsequential my channel really is. At time of writing, that video has 7,130 views, 57 comments and 202 likes for a 97.1% like to dislike ratio. That's a little over 7,000 views in a little under 4 years. Not exactly huge numbers. But for some bizarre reason that only the almighty algorithm knows, it is literally my only video that has regularly got views in the years since I uploaded it. Not many views obviously, just a few a day. But no other video I've ever uploaded has continued to get more than a few random views at all after the first month or so. And it makes sense, I guess. The Doom mapping community is relatively large, but it's still one of the more niche videos I've made, so the competition around that particular subject is lower. Of course, interest in the subject is also proportionately lower, but I guess in this case the balance worked out in my favour, which I am grateful for. Anyway, in 2020 something definitely did go viral, but unfortunately it wasn't me. However, a global pandemic did give me a great excuse to focus more on this whole YouTube thing. And the extra stimulus money that was being thrown around gave me the opportunity to do something that may or may not have been rather foolish. Nearly 4 years later and I still can't decide. I'll leave it up to you, let me know in the comments. Regardless, I decided to pay for advertising. By which I mean I paid for my video on Echo, the first one I ever made and still my favourite at that point, to be shown on people's feeds as an ad. Honestly, this seemed like a pretty novel idea. I'd never seen someone like me just pay for advertising like that, and as far as I know it's still pretty much unheard of. Someone did make a comment saying that Video Game Donkey had paid for advertising when he started off, but I can't verify that. I'd kind of like it to be true, because he has something like 7 million subscribers now, so it would prove it's not the stupidest idea on the planet. But back then it did seem like it could genuinely be the stupidest idea on the planet. But hey, I had a little spare cash and what did I have to lose? Well, the cash obviously, but maybe I'd gain something in return. What I gained after a couple of months of advertising on and off was a subscriber count of 1,000. I was afraid of being ridiculed for advertising and I did get a few comments to that effect, but mostly people were positive and some seemed genuinely grateful to have come across an ad that they actually liked. And yeah, I guess in the most charitable interpretation of things, I did at least save a few people from being subjected to another ad for Bitcoin or NFTs, or whatever the big thing was 4 years ago. Now, you might be wondering how much I actually spent on advertising. I'm hesitant to admit it because it might make me seem like a huge idiot, but hey, that ship has probably already sailed. Also, I've got another arguably worse admission coming up, so hey, in for a penny. I can't actually remember the precise amount I spent on advertising, but I do know it ended up costing slightly less than $1 per subscriber, so around 900 Australian dollars, which is not insignificant. Was it worth it? Well, financially, no, of course not. Unless the channel really takes off at some point, I won't be earning that back anytime soon. Or ever. And it probably wasn't worth it as a foundation for growing the channel. My current subscriber count at time of writing is a touch over 1,300, so that's 300 subs in close to 4 years. That's not nothing, but at the same time it's not much. Don't get me wrong, I'm exceedingly grateful for every subscriber I have, and every view I get feels like an honour I could not possibly deserve. But in terms of growth, it's negligible. At this rate, I'll hit 5,000 subs around my 90th birthday, which would honestly be a pretty cool birthday present, but it's not quite the millions I dared to dream of when I uploaded my first video. But in terms of the motivational factor, yeah, that nearly $1,000 was money well spent. Even if the subs don't necessarily translate into as many views as I might have hoped, knowing that there were people out there who liked what I was doing enough to click a subscribe button was honestly hugely encouraging. So I stuck with it. And I continued to enjoy the process. I had an excuse to go back and play more of my favourite Mega Drive games like Shining Force and the Streets of Rage series, and also some more recent retro classics like Metroid Prime and Suikoden. Actually, by modern standards, those games are still so ancient they could barely be called more recent, even though to my ancient mind, the point of delineation between retro and modern still rests around the release of the first PlayStation. So yeah, I had fun playing games and making videos about them, and it was gratifying to see people watching those videos. By which I mean I didn't actually see them watching, but I saw the little bars in the analytics graphs that indicated someone had watched one of my videos. And I really did see most of those bars as they marched on by, because I developed a possibly unhealthy obsession with my analytics page. If I was sitting at my computer, which was most of the time, I had a tab open on my browser showing my analytics, and I clicked over to it often. And every time I saw another little bar showing me another view, I'd get a little hint of serotonin. If you're wondering if this is a habit that persists to this day, well, yeah, of course it does. I just checked on my analytics between typing that last sentence and this one. 2 views in the last hour. Hey, it's something. This was also the period where I learned to feel jealousy over analytics. I distinctly remember seeing a YouTuber tweet a screenshot of his analytics, complaining about how views were down and his last video had only got something like 50,000 views in the first day. His analytics chart didn't look like a scattered collection of blue lines indicating a couple of views here and there. Oh no, it was a sea of solid blue. Obviously the numbers indicated by that sea weren't enough for that guy, but to me it was like a glimpse into heaven. And this was also about the time when I started wondering about whether it would be feasible for me to get into the YouTube partnership program and start putting ads in my videos. This was not something I considered lightly because, the world does not need more advertising. And it had nothing to do with making money because, incredibly poor as I am, the few cents a week I'd be making from ads wouldn't exactly be doing much to help pay the rent. But I had heard some fairly compelling accounts suggesting that monetized videos were prioritized by the almighty algorithm, and I figured I could use any help that I could get in that respect. With 1,000 subs, I had enough to qualify, but at that time you also needed people to have watched 4,000 hours worth of your videos in the last year. To me, that didn't sound like too much in theory. It's just an average of 4 hours per subscriber over the course of a year, and hell, there are plenty of YouTubers whose content I watch for dozens if not hundreds of hours a year. In practice though, I realised I wasn't close. I wasn't even close to being close. It looked like it was out of the question. And this is where I get to that second confession that I mentioned earlier. You see, I started looking for options for ways to increase my viewership and get those watch hours up. Most of what I found was exactly what you'd expect. Just advice to keep at it, upload consistently, keep the quality high. The consistent uploading I could manage, and the quality was, well, as high as I was going to get it with my modest talents. So I figured I'd just have to wait and hope that eventually things would pick up enough for me to crack the 4,000 watch hours. I'd be waiting and hoping still if I hadn't come across Fiverr. There are a whole bunch of services you can buy on Fiverr, some of them legit, some of them a tad more dubious. Among the hordes vying for my business were a heap of people offering to increase social media engagement, including on YouTube. Even to my untrained eye, they seemed pretty damn dodgy, but they were also cheap, and one of them specifically promised they could get you enough watch hours to qualify for the YouTube Partner Program. It didn't cost much, and they specifically stated that they did organic engagement. That's ethical enough, right? Paying someone to do some marketing for you? I mean, I couldn't imagine what that marketing might consist of, but then I have no idea about marketing in general. So maybe I could conveniently choose to believe that everything was totally legitimate and this person could somehow genuinely convince enough people to watch my videos long enough to get me the hours I needed. That's a win-win, right? I get engagement, these theoretical viewers get to discover a new YouTube channel they might actually enjoy. And hey, at the price they were offering, it would be a fantastic bargain. But I'm not going to bullshit you. I knew that if this supposed organic engagement worked at all, there was a good chance, hell, a near certain chance, that it wouldn't be so organic after all. It would just be the work of a bot farm somewhere. But what was the worst that could happen? It could be a complete waste of money, but not much money. And I figured there was a small chance that YouTube might possibly suspend my account if their algorithm figured out what was going on. But I decided that chance was very small indeed, and that YouTube probably wouldn't care anyway. And I stand by that decision incidentally. I mean, I'm admitting this in a video on YouTube after all. But if they do somehow notice this and decide to take action after all this time, well, I guess if my channel suddenly disappears, you'll know why. But I think the odds of that are tiny. Anyway, I paid my money and I got my watch hours. To no one's surprise, those hours very, very clearly came from a bot farm. You don't get thousands of people watching a video for up to an hour without a single one of them leaving a like or a dislike or a comment or subscribing. Bots, yes, but not real people. But I got my hours. So that's my big confession. What do you reckon? Do you hate me now? Or at least like me less? I'd understand. After all, what I did was not entirely ethical, and more to the point, I did it for the specific purpose of being able to put ads into my videos, which makes them worse for the people watching them, i.e. you. Of course, these days, as I understand it, YouTube puts ads in every video regardless, so at least this way I'm getting money from ads that would be there anyway. And like I say, the only real reason I did it was because I'd heard that monetized videos got prioritized by the algorithm. I still can't categorically say if that's the case, but anecdotally there definitely seems to be some truth to it. But if you still despise me for using unethical means to achieve a dubious goal, you may enjoy hearing just how much money I've made from advertising over the lifetime of my channel. Let me put it this way, you need to get up to $100 before YouTube will actually pay out, and I'm a long way from that. So yeah, effectively I've made nothing. But making money from YouTube was never a goal. It was always just a dream with the slightest, most fragile hint of possibility. That dream still persists, even if it grows more fragile with every passing day, but my main motivator for being on YouTube is the same as it ever was. I just want to play games, think about games, write about games, and maybe have some people listen to what I have to say and hopefully get something out of it. Incidentally, another significant motivator is to communicate and interact with other gamers, or other people in general really, from all over the world. So do please comment if you have anything at all to say, and consider joining my Discord. Links in the description. Anyway, I've continued making videos with varying degrees of motivation and dedication. Sometimes it's been quite a few months between uploads, but I'm always thinking of new topics and different games I'd like to talk about and show off. Recently, as you might have noticed, I've been making videos on a wider range of topics, like this one for instance, which doesn't have much to do with games at all, except in a rather meta sense. And that's been fun and interesting for me, and the people who've watched them don't seem to have hated them too much. Well, except for quite a few people who watched my video on why I will probably never play Fallout New Vegas. That one got easily my highest proportion of dislikes to likes ever. I also got a relatively high number of views and comments, so given the fact that I think the points I made were reasonable, and that I don't mind people disagreeing with me, I still consider that video to be a success. I just wish those people who disagreed could find a better way of expressing it than pressing a thumbs down button. A polite comment discussing why they disagree would be my preference. Regardless, I still greatly enjoy being a teeny tiny YouTuber, and I'm okay with being teeny tiny, for now and forevermore. Except, every now and then something happens that makes me really wonder if there might be the possibility of something more after all. Not too long ago I made a video giving my perspective on the whole YouTube plagiarism drama that was sparked by H-Bomberguy's excellent video. I particularly focused on Internet Historian and how my love for his content had always been tinged with the uneasy suspicion that the man behind it might not be someone I would really want to know. That video is about as close as I've ever come to doing deliberate clickbait, although I do honestly believe that it doesn't really count as clickbait, as it's a topic I had a real interest in and I genuinely wanted to discuss my particular perspective. But yeah, I can't lie, I was also mindful of the fact that it was a current issue of great significance to the YouTube community, and I thought that maybe I could catch that wave. And so I did, in a very minor, but for me very significant way. Over a brief period, 90 minutes or so, that video got a lot of views. Now obviously, a lot of views is a highly relative term, and for me in this case it means about 3,500 views, which isn't many in any objective sense, but it means that video got as many views in an hour and a half as my entire channel got over the previous 6 months. I happened to be keeping an eye on my analytics page at the time, because like I say, if I'm at my computer, I almost always have an eye on my analytics. So for that hour and a half, I watched the views roll in, and I found it genuinely exciting. For those 90 minutes, I almost knew what it was like to be that guy on YouTube who posted his analytics and complained about only getting 50,000 views a day, except I wasn't complaining. For those 90 minutes, the dream of being a proper YouTuber, of actually making a living out of uploading silly little videos, wasn't such a fragile, impossible thing, but a dream that could, after all, be a reality. And then, after those 90 minutes or so, it stopped getting views. In 1 minute, it got about 50 views. Then it got about 50 views in the next hour. Then it got about 50 views in the next day. And then about 50 views in the next week. Turns out the dream was as fragile as I'd always known it was, after all. Of course, I wasn't surprised the views stopped coming in, certainly not as surprised as I was when they started coming in. I was a little disappointed, sure, but mostly I was just grateful for that brief taste of legitimacy of what it might be like to be a proper YouTuber. I did the calculations, and if I got that many views for every minute of every hour of every day of the year, I'd be earning a decent livable income. Obviously that's a bit of a stretch, but for a brief period it was a tantalizing prospect. The actual frustrating thing about something like that is the way it highlights just how much a YouTuber like me, or like anyone really, but particularly us tiny folk, is truly at the whim of the algorithm. Why did that video suddenly start getting more views in a minute than most of my other videos get in a week? More frustratingly, why did it stop? There is no reason, at least none that I, or you, or anyone, even the engineers at Google, can really explain. There is only algorithm, the great dark god that rules us all, and he rules capriciously. In my less rational moments, I find myself thinking, come on algorithm, people quite like my videos, or at least some of them do. I get about 1 new subscriber for every 100 people you show them to. So why not show them to, let's say, every single person who uses YouTube? That way I get 10 million subscribers and you get whatever it is an algorithm wants. The satisfaction of a job well done, maybe? Win-win, right? Alas, the algorithm cannot be cajoled into doing your bidding. All you can do, at least all I personally intend to do, is keep making the sorts of videos I want to make and hope that somewhere out there at least some people enjoy watching them. Yes, I do still hold on to the dream that one day my channel will take off and I'll actually be able to make a living at this stupid YouTube thing, but in the very likely event that doesn't happen, well, I'll see you on my 90th birthday for a 5,000 subscriber celebration stream. I possibly haven't made trying to be a YouTuber seem like the most appealing use of your time, but I do want to strongly suggest to anyone who's ever even vaguely considered it to give it a go. Yes, there are frustrations, there is no guarantee of success, indeed there's no guarantee of anything more than abject failure. There are countless channels out there who do much better work than I do who have sub counts in the double or even single digits. Can you handle the prospect of being one of them? Then you should absolutely make videos. Apart from anything else, there really is a great sense of personal satisfaction. My videos are not particularly high quality, they're not going to rock anyone's world, but I can look at my channel page at the 100 or so videos I've uploaded in the past 4 years, totaling around 30 hours of content, and think, yeah, I made those, and I'm proud of that. And if even I, someone who's both incredibly lazy and rather self-doubting, can maintain the dedication and energy to keep making videos for 4 years and consider the experience with something like pride, then truly anyone can. I do want to strongly advocate you make videos on whatever the hell subject you want in whatever the hell style seems best to you. I'm not saying that you have to completely ignore trends and never consider what's popular and what will attract views. In fact, if you really are passionate about building a viable business on YouTube, that's great, that's a valid option. You'll probably be more successful than most. But conversely, if your passion is something that only 12 people on the planet might appreciate and you want to express it in a way that 11 out of 12 of those people will hate, then hey, that's at least one person out there who wants the sort of stuff you'll create. And that's not much, but it's not nothing. Well, to summarise what I've learned in 4 years as a wannabe YouTuber... Damn, what have I actually learned? It's frustrating but satisfying. I kind of guessed that much before I started. Financial rewards are unlikely, but the joy of creation is its own reward. I definitely knew that before I started. Well, I guess the only thing I learned is that a microphone stand is a valuable accessory. You heard it here first, folks. Now get off my lawn.